Hello folks, from the 7th of July 2024, all new cars sold within the European Union have to have speed limiters fitted. Although this doesn't apply to the UK, as we're not part of the European Union at the moment, it may as well do really, because manufacturers don't want to have to make something special for the UK market. There's a big lobby from Euro NCAP to try and get commonality right across all the markets it looks after. And also, I think the UK government are unlikely to want to ruffle feathers on this. Now, these speed limiters are supposedly a road safety device, and that seems to make perfect sense. If people are going slower, they're less likely to have accidents, you could argue. And if they do have an accident, hopefully it won't be as severe if they're going at a lower speed. That sounds fine in theory. However, some of these things are extremely distracting. If you saw my recent review on the 𝙇𝙄𝙉𝙆𝙎 EVX, when the speed limiter goes off in that, it's a bit like a foghorn going off in your face. It's not particularly subtle. It is a big distraction. You've got a sudden panicked beeping sound. You look down to your dash and you take your eyes off the road for a second. So I think there's two sides to that particular story. Now, the way these speed limiters work is that the car's using GPS data and also reading traffic signs in the road. And if it detects that the car's going over the speed limit for that particular area, it will give you something like a beep or maybe haptic feedback through the pedals or the steering wheel, something like that, probably both. And if you fail to actually take corrective action and reduce your speed, it will put the brakes on for you. It will do it for you, okay? Now, you can turn this off at the moment. The legislation says you can turn it off, but the legislation also says it has to reset itself every time you get out of the car. So that means if you're in and out of the car all day, you've got to keep constantly turning this off. And that means going through a menu system as well. This won't be a single touch on a physical button in the car. This is the start of something much bigger. Cars also now need to have black box login data. They need to have something that recognizes driver fatigue. Again, I've had that in a couple of cars recently. And it's been useless, really, in that 𝙇𝙄𝙉𝙆𝙎, again, not a witch hunt against the Torres by any means. But one day it told me that I should take a break and I was still on the drive. Now, my drive is about the length of a 𝙇𝙄𝙉𝙆𝙎. So I would say these things are in their infancy and perhaps not fully worked out in some cases. As I said, this technology is in its infancy and it's not foolproof. I've certainly had times where I've been on a dual carriageway and it's read a speed limit from a slip road just off the dual carriageway and it started beeping at me for that. Obviously, if it's then going to restrict your speed physically, that could be quite dangerous if you're on a 70-mile-an-hour road and it reads a 30 over there. So I think if you really stand on the accelerator, it will override it at the moment. But all this stuff's subject to change. It could be in future you're not allowed to turn it off. And all that's really going to take is a software update. And you have to wonder if that might be a safety issue itself. And the distraction they cause might be a safety issue. You also have to think about the cost of all this. You know, we're using radar, we're using GPS, we're using cameras. The consumer's paying for that. You know, that goes onto the price of a car. The manufacturers don't say, well, the legislator wants this, therefore we'll give it away. It's all factored into the price of the car you buy. And I think looking further into the future, we could see a time when there's simple geofencing for particular areas. Ford did a project recently in Cologne, whereby it'd be physically impossible to take the car over the speed limit. Now, that's all well and good when everything works completely fine, or if they did it just in some areas. If they did that around schools, at school time, for example, I think it'd be a fantastic idea. If they did it on the M3 at 4 a.m. in the morning, I think it's a stupid idea. So I could see uses for these kind of things, but I could also see how it could be horribly wrong and cumbersome and frustrating. We also have to consider how much money the UK government rakes in from speeding fines. And if that's something they want to say goodbye to all at once, especially. So lots of considerations with this and lots of doubts about where it could go in future. But one thing's for sure, right now, if you're going to buy a new car after the 7th of July in the European Union, you are going to have these speed limiters on your car, plus those one or two other bits and bobs. And it looks very likely that that will also be the case here in the UK. What do you think about this, folks? Is it about time or is it Big Brother? Let me know in the comments. I'm sure there'll be some fairly emotive answers on that. Hope you've enjoyed this one. Please give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.